Okay, let's be honest. How many times have you lost a 1v1 and the first thing that ran through your head was, man, my aim sucks? Or, dang, if I just hit my shots there. And hey, sometimes that's true. Maybe your crosshair was off. Maybe your shots just didn't connect. But here's the thing. Aim isn't the reason you're losing as often as you think. Because if raw mechanics were all that mattered, the players grinding aim trainers for hours and hours every day would be climbing non-stop, and yet so many of them stay stuck. Well, why is that? Because the game isn't just about who clicks heads better, it's about who understands the fight before the shots are even fired. So in this video, I want to break down the real skill that separates the players who stay average from the ones who consistently win fights. And trust me, it has way less to do with your crosshair placement and way more to do with the way you approach the game itself. So the first thing I want to talk about is positioning over precision. Here's the thing no one wants to admit. You can have the best aim in the world, but if you're standing in the wrong spot, it doesn't matter. You know, let's think about it. If you're out in the open with zero cover, every shot you hit is basically a 50-50 coin flip because the enemy has just as a clear line of sight on you as you do them. But if you take that same fight from, let's say, high ground, behind cover, or from an off angle, and they weren't ready for it, suddenly that average aim feels like, cracked out aim. Good positioning sways the fight before it even starts. It changes the rules in your favor. You're forcing the enemy to move weirdly and awkwardly, to expose them or to look in two different places at once. Meanwhile, you just get to rain on them comfortably and safely. That's why you'll sometimes see players who don't even have the best mechanics consistently win duels. It's not luck, and it's not because, the other guy is just terrible. It's because they set up the fight on their own terms. So if you want a quick boost in your performance, stop obsessing over headshot percentages for a second and start asking yourself, okay, where am I standing? What angles am I giving up? Am I making the enemy's job easier or harder? Because when your positioning is smart, your aim doesn't need to be perfect. So the next thing I want to talk about is awareness beats mechanics. And I know I just made an entire video highlighting this, but it's very important. A lot of players think the only thing separating them from the next rank is just faster flicks or tighter tracking. But the truth, it's not always about hitting the craziest shots. It's about knowing what's happening around you. Awareness is what tells you when to engage and when to back off. It's what lets you spot the enemy before they ruin your push, or notice the one teammate who's out of position and they're about to get jumped. Here's the difference. Mechanics only help you once you're already in the fight. Awareness helps you choose the right fight to begin with. You can win duels with decent aim if you catch someone off guard or collapse on them with your team. But trust me, you're not winning anything if you're constantly surprised or fighting battles you should have never taken in the first place. Think of awareness as free damage. If you're the one predicting rotations, noticing cooldowns, or reading the map, and all those little things, they add up and they matter in a fight. That's the stuff aim alone can't save you from. So if you feel stuck, stop grinding aim trainers for a second and start training your eyes and your ears. Listen for ultimates, notice the sound cues, pay attention to enemy patterns, because mechanics, yes, are flashy, but awareness is what wins you those games. So that leads me into my next point, which is timing. You can have the most perfect plan, the best positioning, and even just the cleanest mechanics, but if your timing is off, the entire play just collapses and it makes it way harder to execute. Timing is that invisible factor that separates a flashy clip from an actual round-winning play. So let's talk about it. You dive in 1 second too early and suddenly you're isolated by yourself and you have 3 people looking at you and your teammates are still setting up, and that fight could have been a clean one if it was just at the right time. On the flip side, if you push 1 second too late, the opportunity is gone. The enemy has already regrouped, they've reset, and now you're walking into a fight that favors them instead of you. What's wild is that both of those plays could have been the right call in theory. The idea wasn't bad, but the timing was. It sucks when it's not executed the way you thought it would in your head. And that's where the difference really lies between players who look like they know what they're doing and the players who actually control the flow of the game. Great players, the ones who feel like they're always in the right place at the right time, aren't just reacting, they're playing with tempo. They know when to stall, when to bait cooldowns, when to just full send it forward. They don't just see openings, they hit those openings at the exact moment where they're most fragile. It's the reason why sometimes a team wipe looks just effortless. From the outside, it feels like everything just happened all at once, but in reality, that wasn't chaos. That was just discipline. The damage hit at the same time, ultimates overlapped instead of just trickling in, and the enemy never even got the chance to respond. And here's the thing, we don't always notice when our timing is off because in our heads, it made sense. You thought you had the angle. You thought your team was right behind you, but if your push didn't sync with them, it doesn't matter how sharp your aim was or how clever your plan sounded. Timing is what turns good plays into what wins the rounds. So the next time a fight doesn't go your way, don't automatically blame your mechanics. Ask yourself, did I go in too soon or did I wait too long? Did we actually line up as a team or did we just take turns, hitting random things? Because good plays are everywhere, but the ones that are timed right, those are the ones that decide games. So the next thing I want to talk about is resource management. And before I even say anything, I know it sounds obvious. And when I say resource management, I don't mean just holding my ability or saving my ult for next fight. Here's something most players don't realize. Resources win games more often than raw skill ever will. And when I say resources, again, I don't mean just cooldowns. I'm talking about the full picture. Your health bar, your positioning, your abilities, your ultimate economy, even your teammates, where they're set up on the map. All of it adds up to one thing: leverage. Whoever has more leverage usually wins the fight. But here's the trap most average players fall into. They play like resources are infinite. They'll spam an ability the second it's off cooldown just because it's there. Or they'll ego challenge at half health thinking, oh, if I just out aim this guy, I'll win. And maybe once in a while they will. Maybe they do pull it off. But 9 times out of 10, if you enter a fight already down on resources, you're most likely going to lose. Great players think differently. They understand that resources are currency. Every single ability, every sliver of health, every single ultimate, it's something you spend. And the way you spend it determines whether you're broke before the fight starts or whether you've got enough saved to buy the next round. Think about a duel. 2 players with equal aim meet head to head. One of them is sitting at full health, holding a key ability in their pocket, and the other took a little bit of chip damage, blew their cooldowns early for no reason, and now they're walking into that duel, basically naked. That fight isn't about raw aim anymore. It's already decided. The first player has the resources and the second one didn't. And this logic just doesn't apply to 1v1 fights. It scales all the way up to, a full 6v6. If your team dumps every ultimate into a single fight, sure, maybe you win that fight and you just blew all your ultimates. Go into the next round, nothing left, while the enemy team has, maybe 3 ultimates. Suddenly, the fight you thought you dominated was actually just a setup for your own downfall. That's the kind of short-sighted plays that looks great in the moment, but costs you the game in the long run. What separates great players is that they zoom out. They're not just asking, can I win this fight? They're asking, if I spend this ult now, would it matter next fight or even 2 fights from now? If I force this ultimate trade, who actually comes out ahead? That bigger picture thinking is why their teams always feel one step ahead. But you know what? Let's go one step further. Resource management also means knowing when to not fight. Sometimes the best play isn't about popping off with, let me just force a fight here. Sometimes it's about pulling back, resetting, maybe waiting for your heals or, waiting for abilities to come back up, waiting for the right conditions to line up. Average players see retreating as weakness, while, the most, cracked out players see it as, just reloading the bank, stacking up resources for the fights that actually matter. So here's the real takeaway. Mechanical skill might win you, cool clips and stuff like that, but resource management wins you matches. And if you want to climb, stop only asking yourself, did I hit my shots that game, or what was my accuracy that round? And start thinking, did I manage my resources better than my opponent? Because 9 times out of 10, that's where games are truly decided. It's not about how fast you could click heads or, flick. It's about how well you can make sure you're fighting from a position of strength. And that's the layer of the game that most players ignore. And once you start playing with that mindset, you stop gambling on raw skill and start guaranteeing your wins a little bit more. So for my last thing, I'm gonna just make it short and sweet. It's confidence. More specifically, confidence in your decision making. Hesitation loses more games than bad aim ever will. You can line up the perfect shot, but if you freeze for a second, that moment is just gone. Confidence in decision making is what separates solid players from amazing ones. And it's not about always being right. It's just about committing. Even a risky play, if you go in fully, that has a better chance of working than, a safe play and second guessing and fumbling. When you move with certainty, your team feels it. They follow, they trade with you, and fights suddenly tilt in your favor. Because at the end of the day, games aren't won by players who hesitate. They're won by the ones who act with confidence. So at the end of the day, it's not about your aim. Your aim's not holding you back. It's the way you think about the game. If you can focus on positioning, awareness, timing, map knowledge, and just owning your decisions, your aim suddenly doesn't feel like the problem anymore. So the next time you're in a match, stop stressing about just hitting every shot and start thinking about how you're setting yourself up before the fight even starts. So yeah, that's what I got for y'all today. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you on the next one.